Here's what happens when a family lunch becomes the scene of multiple murders, and the devastating aftermath that leaves survivors questioning everything they thought they knew about trust. The courtroom drama unfolding in Melbourne reveals one of Australia's most shocking family betrayals, where a simple invitation to dinner became a calculated act of violence that destroyed an entire family tree. But here's where it gets controversial. Some are calling the survivor's response to his wife's killer the most unexpected twist in this already jaw-dropping case. Toxic family feast. When dinner plans turn deadly. Erin Patterson's pre-sentencing hearing has begun, marking a pivotal moment for the woman who transformed what should have been an ordinary family gathering into a nightmare that claimed 3 lives and nearly took a 4th. The July 2023 lunch at her Leongatha home in regional Victoria wasn't just any meal. It was a carefully orchestrated plan that would forever shatter the lives of everyone involved. The victims of this devastating betrayal included Patterson's former in-laws, Dawn and Gail Patterson, both age 70, alongside Gail's sister, Heather Wilkinson, 66. The only survivor, Ian Wilkinson, Heather's husband, spent weeks fighting for his life in an induced coma, defying doctors' expectations by pulling through against all odds. The prosecution successfully convinced the jury that Patterson deliberately laced beef Wellingtons with poisonous mushrooms, despite her defense team's claims that the deaths were nothing more than a tragic accident. After enduring 10 weeks of evidence, the jury delivered their verdict. Guilty on all counts, including 3 charges of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Faces of grief when victims speak their truth. For the first time since this tragedy unfolded, those left behind are getting their chance to look Patterson directly in the eye and tell her exactly how her actions have devastated their world. The emotional weight in that courtroom is palpable as 7 victim impact statements are being presented to help the judge determine an appropriate sentence. Ian Wilkinson, the lone survivor of that fateful meal, took the stand with a voice trembling with emotion as he began sharing memories of his beautiful wife. His description painted Heather as someone who embodied compassion, intelligence, and bravery. Simply a delightful person who loved sharing life with others. He emphasized her willingness to help anyone in need and her remarkable sense of humor that made being in her presence an absolute joy. But here's where it gets controversial. Wilkinson's response to his wife's killer has left many speechless. The most stunning moment came when Wilkinson directly addressed Patterson, questioning the logic behind her actions. What foolishness could lead someone to think murder could be the solution to her problems, particularly against people who had shown her nothing but goodwill? However, what happened next shocked everyone in the courtroom. In a voice that grew stronger with each word, Wilkinson offered something no one expected: complete forgiveness. The gasps from the gallery were audible as he declared, "I bear her no ill will. My prayer for her is that she uses her time in jail wisely to become a better person. Now, I am no longer Erin Patterson's victim. She has become the victim of my kindness." And this is the part most people miss. While society often focuses on those who commit evil rather than those who demonstrate good, Wilkinson's response challenges our very understanding of justice and redemption. The ripple effect. How one meal destroyed multiple lives. Wilkinson's personal testimony revealed the profound emptiness that now defines his existence. "I only feel half alive without her," he confessed, describing the heartbreak of suddenly being single and having to handle his wife's affairs without her guidance. Even simple pleasures, like pottering around the house and garden, have lost their joy since her death. The impact extends far beyond the immediate survivor. Wilkinson spoke emotionally about how his wife was a great mother to our 4 children, someone who believed her greatest accomplishment was raising them to become good people. The trauma they've experienced has created deep, lasting wounds, causing him immense grief over their ongoing pain. Dawn and Gail Patterson, described by Wilkinson as 2 of the closest people in his life, were remembered as good and solid people who had provided encouragement and support for approximately 50 years. Their absence has left his life greatly impoverished, highlighting the decades of relationships that were severed in a single afternoon. Ruth Dubois, daughter of the Wilkinsons, addressed the court about losing her mother, asking the fundamental question, "Where do you begin?" She painted her mother as a wonderful example that she continuously strives to live up to, while her father Ian stood with his head bowed, bearing witness to his daughter's pain. Dubois didn't hold back when directly addressing Patterson, expressing how difficult to comprehend her behavior was, emphasizing that she could have changed the plans, but instead chose to follow through. The intense media coverage has been traumatic for the family, leaving Dubois second-guessing who she can trust. In her most pointed statement, she addressed Patterson as a mother. "As a mother, I could never understand how you could willingly choose this for your children." Generational grief. When murder spans age groups, the tragedy's reach extends to the most vulnerable. Dawn Patterson's 100-year-old mother had her statement read by a relative, describing how her son had helped her navigate computers and the internet. The loss of this technological support represents just one small example of how these murders created practical voids alongside the emotional devastation. Tim Patterson, nephew to Dawn and Gail, shared diary entries revealing the immediate impact. "I woke today, and the world feels different without Dawn and Gail in it." He remembered his Uncle Don as his role model growing up, someone who could somehow make you feel you were the only person in the world. His statement posed haunting questions about why God would choose such a violent end for people who had dedicated their lives to faith. Tim's testimony highlighted what he called the ultimate injustice: the lack of explanation, reason, or remorse. He emphasized that years of love and laughter have been stolen, making the world poorer for it. Simon Patterson, whose parents and aunt were murdered by his estranged wife, delivered perhaps the most personal statement of all. "I miss my parents and aunt more than words can express," his statement began. Though he found comfort in his faith, believing they are with God and I will see them again. The courtroom theater. Observing the accused, throughout these emotional testimonies, Patterson appeared extremely affected by what she was hearing. The 50-year-old woman, who has received extensive global media attention throughout this case, was observed becoming increasingly emotional as Ian Wilkinson read his statement. She was seen looking on intently as various family members shared their pain, reaching down for support on an oak table as she was escorted from the room by 2 guards. This marks the first public appearance for Patterson since her conviction last month. She arrived at court in a prison van, flanked by security officers, for what would become one of the most emotionally charged hearings in recent Australian legal history. Why this case matters more than you think. The Erin Patterson case represents more than just another murder trial. It exposes the terrifying reality that the people we trust most can become our greatest threats. The deliberate nature of these poisonings, hidden within what should have been a gesture of hospitality, challenges our basic assumptions about family safety and social trust. But here's what's truly controversial about this case. Should society focus more on punishment or redemption? Ian Wilkinson's unexpected offer of forgiveness raises uncomfortable questions about justice, mercy, and whether victims have a responsibility to rise above their trauma. The prosecution's successful argument that Patterson deliberately served the toxic meal, despite her claims of accident, suggests a level of premeditation that makes this crime particularly chilling. The fact that she served herself from a different, smaller plate during the meal provided crucial evidence of her intent to harm others while protecting herself. Moving forward, questions that demand answers. As the court prepares to determine Patterson's sentence, this case forces us to confront difficult questions about trust, forgiveness, and justice. The 7 victim impact statements paint a comprehensive picture of how one person's actions can destroy multiple generations of a family, creating trauma that will likely persist for decades. The media attention surrounding this case has highlighted what Ian Wilkinson called a shortcoming of society, the tendency to focus on those who do evil rather than those who do good. His observation that the silence in our home is a heavy reminder of his loss resonates beyond this specific tragedy, speaking to anyone who has experienced profound loss. What do you think? Is Ian Wilkinson's offer of forgiveness to his wife's killer an inspiring example of grace, or does it somehow diminish the severity of Patterson's crimes? Should victims be expected to forgive those who have destroyed their lives? Or is this an unfair burden to place on people who are already suffering? And here's perhaps the most uncomfortable question of all. In a world where family gatherings should represent safety and love, how do we rebuild trust when someone can turn a simple lunch invitation into a weapon of mass destruction against their own relatives? The court will reconvene to hear evidence from the Office of Corrections before determining Patterson's final sentence. But the emotional scars left by this case will undoubtedly persist long after the legal proceedings conclude. The question remains, can a community, and more importantly, can a family ever truly heal from such a calculated betrayal of trust?